So, how does a country go from a prison riot to a full-blown national crisis in just over 24 hours? It's a story that forces a really tough choice. A choice between freedom and security. We're going to break down exactly how this all went down in Guatemala.
It all started with this one single chilling number, 8. That's 8 police officers killed. Executed, really. And this wasn't just some tragic crime. It turned out to be the spark that basically lit the whole country on fire. The government's reaction was swift, and you have to listen to the words they used. They didn't just call it gang violence. No, they called it terrorism. This quote from the Interior Minister is so important because it frames the attack as a direct challenge to the power of the state itself. But, how did we get here? How did it all escalate so fast? Well, the killing of those 8 officers, that wasn't actually the first move in this whole deadly game. It was retaliation. The real story started about 24 hours earlier with a coordinated attack that began behind prison walls. Right, so before police were even targeted, there was a different number in the headlines, 46. That's the number of people, mostly prison guards, but get this, even a psychiatrist who were taken hostage. This wasn't just some riot, it was a carefully planned siege happening across 3 different prisons at the same time. And make no mistake, this was not just random chaos. The hostage-taking was a calculated political move. The inmates had a very clear demand. They were protesting that their leaders were being transferred to a maximum security prison, and they wanted them moved back. This was a power play, pure and simple. Okay, so look at this timeline. It shows just how fast everything went off the rails. Saturday morning, you have the hostage takings inside the prisons. By Sunday, the violence spills onto the streets when those 8 officers are killed. At dawn, the state hits back, launching its own counteroffensive, and by Sunday evening, the president declares a nationwide state of emergency. It's just an incredibly fast spiral from a prison dispute to a full-on national crisis. So who's pulling the strings here? While the authorities are pointing the finger at 2 of Central America's most infamous and rival gangs, Barrio 18 and MS-13. I mean, these groups are powerful. They control huge territories through just extreme violence and drug trafficking. And to give you some perspective on their scale, the United States doesn't just call them criminals, it actually designates them as transnational terrorist organizations. That puts them in the same category as groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. All right, so with the whole country basically on a knife's edge, the government knew it had to hit back, and hit back hard. Its next move was a massive counteroffensive to retake control of those prisons. They didn't just rush in blind. They had this really clear 3-step tactical plan. First, lock down the prisons from the outside. Second, storm the facilities. And third, free the hostages and grab the ringleaders. It's a surprisingly methodical approach to a really chaotic situation. And when we say storm, we mean a full-scale assault. We're not talking about a simple police action here. No way. This was the whole shebang. Police, backed up by the army, rolling in with armored vehicles, using tear gas. This wasn't about negotiation. It was a show of force, sending a message that the state would not be messed with. And in the middle of all this, boom, they get a huge win. The authorities capture a man named Aldo Dupi, better known as El Lobo, or the Wolf. This guy's a major leader in the Barrio 18 gang. So taking a high-value target like him off the board was a massive victory for the government. And this is the part that's pretty incredible, actually. Despite all the force, all the firepower, the president announced that all 46 hostages were freed without a single casualty. That's a huge relief, of course, but it's also a critical success that gave the government the political leverage it needed for what came next. So the prisons are secure. Now what? Well, the government's focus shifts from a tactical operation to a national strategy. And what they decided to do next was going to affect every single citizen in Guatemala. The president declares a 30-day nationwide state of emergency. And let me tell you, that is a massive deal. For an entire month, the whole country is going to be operating under a totally different set of rules, all in the name of crushing these criminal gangs. Okay, but what does a state of emergency actually mean for you, for the average person? Well, think of it like the government hitting a giant pause button on some of your fundamental rights. They can temporarily suspend your freedoms, arguing that it's absolutely necessary to fight off a major threat. It's the ultimate trade-off. You give up some liberty to hopefully gain some security. So what kind of rights are we talking about? Well, for starters, the right to gather in public? Gone. That protection you have from being arrested or questioned without a judge signing off on it? Also gone. Suddenly, the police have this incredible power to detain anyone they suspect, and that totally changes the balance of power between the citizen and the state. And if you're wondering why they would take such an extreme step, well, this graph pretty much tells the whole story. Guatemala's homicide rate is more than double the global average. The violence there isn't some abstract idea. It is a daily, brutal reality. And the government is making a bet that its citizens are willing to trade fewer rights for a chance at more safety. And that really brings us to the fundamental question here, not just for Guatemala, but for anywhere, really. When you're faced with this level of extreme violence, what is the right balance between security and freedom? And maybe the more important question is, once you give those freedoms up, how easy is it to ever get them back?